Let's talk about AEW Dynamite from May the 7th, 2025. I did not attend the show at the Masonic Temple, mainly because it seemed to me like AEW didn't really want Detroit and didn't really care about Detroit because they didn't really announce anything for this show. In fact, they announced most of the big stuff to happen next week in the suburb of Chicago. So I was like, well, I'll just keep my money, especially considering I don't have a lot of it anymore. So I'll just hold on to what I got, right? But the Masonic Temple is a concert venue. I'm pretty sure all of you have seen the inside of it now. It's a beautiful venue. It's in a tough part of town. Very tough. But it's right off of the university. So it's like a couple of blocks away from Wayne State University where I went to college. I've seen Bone Thugs and Harmony there. I see DMX there. I believe Nas has been there. You know, there's been quite a few people at the Masonic Temple, and it's a very good venue. It's pretty dope. But I couldn't pull myself to go to that venue to do that show today. It wasn't going to happen. So we're going to talk about the show that I watched on television rather than the show I probably would have went to. It would have been nice to go see like Okada wrestle in person, because that's one person on this show that I've never seen wrestle in person that I kind of want to. But at the same time, it wasn't like I was seeing Okada from like the Tokyo Dome or anything like that. This is Okada on Cruise Control, which, whatever. But so let's talk about this thing, okay? So we start the show with Hangman Page. Hangman Page thanks the fans for cheering for him, admitted that he was consumed with revenge and he nearly killed a man, and he felt nothing afterwards. He had no closure, so he started lashing out, and he felt no catharsis, and he says that he may never forgive or forget Swerve, but the incident of Swerve invading his house is behind him. Will Osprey cut him off, came out and said that this is the first time they've had an opportunity to talk. Said one of his favorite moments was Hangman Page taking the Dark Order under his wing and going along to win the world title. He said that last week, upon beating, Fletcher, beating Fletcher, Hangman did something he hadn't done in a long time, which is find his smile. He found his smile. He finally found it. It's like when you lost your remote control or your old Game Boy. Where is it? And you find out it was in the back of the closet. Or it's like my sidebar. I had a hat, right? My friend went out of town. Got a hat for me. I was drawing my dreadlocks or whatever. I got my little hat, to hold my locks in or whatever. And I made the rookie mistake of mentioning that a female friend of mine had bought me this hat. And I'm 99% sure my girlfriend stole the hat. And I have not been able to find it in 5 years. I've looked for that hat everywhere. Everywhere. Now, the thing is, it's just fucking comfortable when it's cold outside. I don't know what tropical island she found this thing from, but it's actually pretty damn good for when it's cold outside. Because hats, when you wear a hat, to cover your locks and everything, sometimes it can be kind of thin, so a lot of air get in. But that one, it was pretty warm, brother. And now it's in the wind, it's gone. So Hangman Page's smile is where my hat is. Apparently his girlfriend stole his smile, and then she finally gave it back to him last week. That was great. Very nice of her. A round of applause. Right? So he found his smile, and Will Osprey is happy that Hangman finally overcoming his demons, but he's been tearing AEW apart. He says, Will Osprey says, while Hangman Page has been throwing a fit, he's been doing Hangman's job. He's been doing the press. He's been doing the media. He's been showing people that this is where the best wrestle. And that was, oh my God, oh my boy. Don Callis came out next. Said that Will Ospreay is stupid and that Hangman Page is violent and mentally unstable. Both things are true statements. Then Will Ospreay was going to challenge Callis' group to a tag team match, and Hangman Page just stared at him because he's practicing his tough guy stare. He's got like a year and a half of practice, and it's still, baby's first stare, and it's not working out. He needs to shave that mustache too, by the way. He just doesn't look like a tough guy. You know what he looks like. He looks like a fit Ron Jeremy. Okay? But let's focus. There's a tag team match next week. 2 guys from the Don Callis family versus Hangman Page and Will Ospreay. The theme of the match, of course, can they coexist? And who cares? They don't have any heat. There's no heat here between Hangman and Osprey. They're both baby faces. Now, I'm not going to dump too much on Hangman's promo. He was in reflection. He's saying, like, I've been a bad dude. I've been terrible, and the fans have stayed with me. I appreciate that. And then he talked about doing all these things and chasing certain kinds of satisfaction only to find out that it's hollow. So revenge didn't make him feel any better. And then attacking other people didn't make him feel any better either. And the only thing that kind of made him feel better was getting over it. And I can appreciate that. I think that that's a solid thing to tell the audience. It's a solid message. Then Osprey came out, basically said, you found your smile, and then there was a bunch of other hullabaloo that came out of his face. And it really, I just kind of shrugged. Osprey's a boring promo. And he says that he's been doing Hangman Page's job. It's like, well, isn't it everybody's job to do media? Isn't it everybody's job to show everybody that AEWs were the best wrestle? Isn't that everybody's job? I didn't know that. I didn't know that it wasn't, brother. But Don Callis saying that, that Hangman Page is violent and mentally unstable is pretty funny. So that was that. Will Ospreay would show up again later in an argument with MJF, where the two of them discuss why MJF didn't enter the tournament. Ospreay thinks it's because MJF is scared. MJF wants Will Ospreay to win the tournament and the championship so that he could beat him for it as revenge for what happened at All In. I gotta tell you, the opening segment went on too long. When they try to pull a WWE and do these 10-minute promos, they don't necessarily always put the right people in the right places. And Hangman and Will Ospreay are not the two guys I want to listen to talk for 10 minutes. They just not the guys. All right. Next, we built some collision shit. FTR confronting Tony Schiavone. This was just the bald guy talking. And then they pushed Tony Schiavone. And I was like, where is this leading to? It led to nothing. As they basically left on their own. FTR then said that they felt like they were father figures to Daniel Garcia. And he turned his back on them. And one of them is gonna fight him on Collision. I'm pretty sure that's gonna sell a whole lot of tickets. A whole lot. Like none at all. So we then are treated to Anna Jay and Harley Cameron, which is a new pairing, I'm guessing, formed on Collision. Anna Jay says to Harley Cameron, and I quote, "You had my fat ass on Collision. And will you have my fat ass tonight?" And Harley Cameron said yes with both hands. And then she says, and I'm talking about Harley Cameron, "We have together TNA, you tenacity and aggression," to which Anna Jay said, "and tits and ass." And then Harley Cameron agreed. And I'm just wondering, if this conversation was had on NXT, what people's response would be. Okay? Now, remember, we were told that NXT is an increasingly horny show. We were told that NXT was, I think that we did a video last year, 2 years ago maybe, where somebody said that NXT was basically a porno, right? And what we've been seeing with the women's division in AEW is that women feeling all over each other. They're licking each other, kissing each other. It's all sort of latent homosexuality. And look, I ain't complaining. I'm just saying be consistent. Okay? If Tony... last week I noticed it, and I think nobody else did, that Miyu Yamashita was rubbing and kicking all over Tony Storm's ass. And it wasn't, hey, I'm kicking you in the thigh and it looks like your butt. No, she was kicking her right in the butt, and she was rubbing her butt and feeling all over it while she did it. Okay? The point is they're leaning more towards titillation, which, to me, I don't mind. I'm just saying, if we saw similar on NXT, or similar on Monday Night Raw, or similar on SmackDown, that people would have the same response, which is just have fun with it. But people don't know how to do that. For some odd reason, they can go on AEW TV and make tits and ass jokes. Nobody is, in the Handmaid's Tale all of a sudden. But when you do it on Raw or SmackDown, all of a sudden, oh my God, women are now shackled to the kitchen all over again. All I ask for is for people to be consistent, but I'm asking for too much. All right, so tits and ass, tenacity and aggression, who really cares? They do a fatal 4-way women's match for absolutely no reason. They didn't even put any money on the line. They did another stupid money match on Collision. They didn't even do one for the girls. They didn't even ask the free chicken dinner for the winner or nothing. It was just Toni Storm, hey, go wrestle these 3 other girls. Okay. And then she did it and won. Toni Storm versus Thunder Rosa versus Penelope Ford versus Anna Jay. A match for nothing. Megan Bayne just crashed the match. She just walked right on in, started beating people up. And obviously, it's no disqualification. But it begs the question, why didn't anybody else's favorite wrestler or whatever just walk in the match and take over? Ultimately, Megan Bayne starts fighting Anna Jay. And, of course, it made sense because they actually led into this. But Anna Jay was actually fighting Megan Bayne off. And I'm thinking to myself, Megan Bayne has only been in this company, 3 months maybe? And she's getting knocked, well, she didn't get knocked down, but she was being basically battered by Anna Jay for a short time there. And then she powerbombed Anna Jay, and the powerbomb looked pretty good. It looked pretty stiff. And then after the powerbomb, here comes Harley Cameron. And Harley Cameron clotheslines Megan Bayne over the top rope and then proceeds to beat her with a pipe. Now, look, I appreciate the pipe, that they would introduce the pipe as an equalizer due to the size differential. But, again, Megan Bayne is fairly new and should not be in this position. And Harley Cameron is a jabroni. She might be an entertaining jabroni, but she is a jabroni. Megan Bayne should have booted her in the face and beat her up too. Or she should have powdered when Harley Cameron came into the ring. But the idea that Megan Bayne is selling and being beat up by Harley Cameron is ridiculous. This is the equivalent of R-Truth beating up, I don't want to say Brock Lesnar. Let's say Drew McIntyre. All right? Somebody that the company is pushing as a gigantic, star. And the guy is fucking massive. You got your comedy jabroni running in there, even with a weapon, and beating him up. It's like, okay, you want to chase him off? Fine. But I didn't like this. And I didn't pay attention to this match. There was a bunch of moonsaults that happened. There was some synchronized offense, which, they really get off on. Toni Storm stomped Penelope Ford in the crotch because Penelope Ford kicked her in the crotch earlier in the match. Later, she puts Penelope Ford in a chicken wing, and Penelope Ford tapped out. So, Tony Storm's new finisher is the Bob Backlund crossface chicken wing. In other news, we're just gonna move right on. The match was nothing. Poor Tony. She's just stuck in this situation. She's just keeping the belt warm until they put it on Mercedes. And that's unfortunate. And Thunder Rosa, she feels like an afterthought. Thunder Rosa feels almost like a nostalgia act at this point. She doesn't even feel like she fits in this company anymore. You know, she's such an act. She almost like, she's so detached from the roster. She feels a lot like Natalya in WWE. Except for Natalya is... oh my God. Let's not get on that, okay? Serena Deeb is basically the Natalya of AEW, but Thunder Rosa feels very detached from the rest of the roster. And like, she's not a part of any story. She's just kind of there if you need her. And that's it. And she was just another body to put in this match. And the weird thing is, Thunder Rosa lost this match and was celebrating with Toni Storm. She lost. She did not win this match that she was in. Now, granted, the match was for nothing. So, I guess that's fair. You know, you win nothing, you lose nothing. So, might as well celebrate with the fucking winner. Whatever. So, the Hurt Business come out. They want to make a challenge. The challenge is answered by Top Flight, where I had wrote LOL before anything had even happened. Because I already know Top Flight's been around for 3-4 years. They're in the exact same position they were 3 or 4 years ago. It's highly everybody in AEW, with the exception of like 3 or 4 people, are in the exact same position 2, 3, 4 years later. Okay? Top Flight, same exact position they were in when they were rookies. And they've been in this, they've broken all of their legs and dislocated hips, and they're still in the same fucking position. They have had 0 character development. The only thing that they really did was, for a short time, they were dressed like pilots. And they had Layla Gray with them. That was the only thing they did. And they had that very short amount of time where they were a trio with Action Andretti, who is now a heel and hanging out with Leo Rush. And they're standing in the crowd wearing sunglasses because that's what heels do. Why is Top Flight not being developed at all? Just no development. In any event, they came out, they talked. I really wish they hadn't. And then MJF jumped them and beat them up, both of them. He made Dante bleed and then gave him an absolutely vicious powerbomb on the ring apron. It was a nasty powerbomb. It truly was. MJF then got in the ring and said that he hurts people. And the crowd was rumbling because they figured, okay, now he's done what Lashley asked him to do. Lashley says that he'll give him an answer next week. MJF, frustrated, but turns and leaves. Later, the Hurt Business introduced their new lawyer, Harrison Landau, who assured MJF he's going to get a response next week. So, I like this. I like that MJF beat up Top Flight, because who cares about Top Flight? Not Tony Khan, not really the fans, not me, not Lashley, not Shelton Benjamin. I'm sorry, Benjamin Shelton. Nobody cares about these fucking guys. You know, so it is what it is. It is what it T.I. is when it comes to these fucking guys. All right. Next, we got the Elite. They're hanging out with Ricochet. And they asked Ricochet why did he want to partner with them tonight. And he says he wants to handle that swerve problem for them. Why? No reason. He's not getting anything out of it, so it is what it is. So the Young Bucks are like, okay. And then they go into their locker room, and in the dark, because that's what heels do, is Jon Moxley, Marina Shafir, and there's some guy sitting in a chair. I think it was Claudio. And they're in the dark. It's like, look, we get it. You're bad guys. Why are you in the room in the dark? Okay. You could at least be like wouldn't it be more disrespectful if they opened the door to their dressing room and Jon Moxley's feet's on the table and he's eating grapes off of their charcuterie board and all that kind of stuff. And he basically just commandeered the room. Instead, they open the door and Moxley's in a hoodie in the dark, like he's a mugger or something. What is this? This is what I call cultural appropriation. Moving on, this is a 6-man tag because they love these things now. Mark Briscoe, Speedball Mike Bailey, and Swerve Strickland versus the Young Bucks and Ricochet. I was told today by Will Osprey that he prefers a more sports-based presentation. So, this was a sports ball match filled with all the sorts of synchronized offense that you often see in various sports ball. Where, these guys are doing triple moonsaults off the top rope and all other sorts of WMAC Masters fight scenes. Even Speedball Mike Bailey, he whiffed a top rope drop kick, just missed it. And I think the guy took a bump anyway. But who cares at this point, man? This is just as bad as the 8-man tag from last week. Because it's the same format. It's the same match, just featuring, mostly the same people. Ricochet was in the match, still showing some personality. Unfortunately, it was his role here to be a geek. And that includes being a geek even for the Young Bucks. They refused, they forced him to start the match, for starters. And then they made a fool out of him by telling him, oh yeah, we're all going to run in together. And he jumps on the ring apron and they took off. He's putting their hair on his head, and Ricochet's doing whatever he can to try to be entertaining. The problem is, looking like a little bro to the absolute geekiest of dudes is not the way. It would be fine if the Young Bucks were cool, right? Like when Foley was being a fool for The Rock, it works because The Rock is cool, so you can see how Foley might look up to The Rock. Here, Ricochet should be cooler than the fucking Young Bucks. Like, these guys are dorks, who cares about these guys, But then again, I feel comfortable that enough people didn't watch this that it probably wouldn't matter anyway. Because, the Young Bucks are absolute fan repellent. So the moment their music played, like 120,000 people or whatever changed the channel, because that's how it is now. That's how it's been for 5 years. I don't think anybody's chased away more fans than the Young Bucks. I think when the Young Bucks come on TV, it's like when Stan Hansen used to go in Japan. Just start, and people just started fleeing. Like when Brody used to go into the crowd and people would just flee and run away. They just scurry away from him. Like when Scott Steiner went into the crowd on Ring Ka King and everybody's just spread all over the place. It's like a school shooting. People just start getting out of Dodge when the Young Bucks show up. And then they peek to see if it's over. God damn. The Young Bucks won. And after all of the hullabaloo from during the match, I'm talking about all the synchronized offense and synchronized moonsaults and, power bombs and such. The finish of the match, a small package. So there is that. The mighty small package. So there's that. Nick Wayne defeated Rhino. Fuck Rhino. He sucks. The crowd chanted bullshit for, I will say about 15 to 20 seconds. They were very disappointed in this match. But what more did you expect? Rhino has been trash for 15 years, maybe. I mean, it's been a long time. Like, during that second run in WWE, he was mostly comedy, hanging out with Heath Slater. That was fine, but he wasn't good in the ring anymore. Rhino ain't been good in the ring since at least 2006, 7. During his, I think, initial run with TNA, he was still pretty solid. But I was never a big Rhino fan anyway, but I think you could safely say he's been washed for at least a decade. Absolute bum and fat, chubby, very stubby, very much out of shape. But then again, he's an older guy, and this match certainly should not have happened. Christian cheated a little bit by yanking Rhino's leg. Oh, this was for the ROH television title too, if you care, which nobody does. Let's get back to some unintentional comedy. So Jamie Hayter is going to cut a promo, and she was so animated. It was hilarious. and I was distracted by her hair, which was actually quite luxurious, if I may. She said she wanted to respect Owen Hart's legacy, and she doesn't want Owen Hart's legacy represented by somebody like Mercedes because she goes against everything that Owen Hart stood for. What are you talking about, Jamie? How well acquainted are you with Owen Hart? Like, what are you talking about? She says she wants to find out who the real Mercedes is, not the materialistic, arrogant snob, such and such, which I think you probably are closer than you think, young Jamie. She then said she was insulted to be compared to Mercedes Moné because Mercedes thinks she's untouchable, and she's going to show Mercedes that she's not untouchable. And then Jamie was a little too humble by saying she didn't have Mercedes' resume, and she doesn't have Mercedes, match history of all of her championships. And she says, I may not be the best, and I'm not the worst. So you're putting yourself right smack dab there in the middle, which is blah territory. Why would you do that? Why would you do that? You're a former world champion. You are a former world champion. You should be comfortable enough to say that you are the best. In any event, she said that she reflects light and energy. And I was like, oh shit. As soon as we started getting women cutting promos in wrestling, they started bringing their, their voodoo shit and their crystals, and now we got this. She's a prism now. She's reflecting light. She's a mirror now. Like, what is this? What is this? Jamie Hayter is a muscle mommy, right? She's pretty well put together. She should be a lot more confident in her abilities to beat Mercedes Moné. And I'm gonna tell you what the problem is. The problem is she's on Collision. And if you're on Collision, you're as far away from the world title as you possibly can be. So that means everybody that's featured on Collision, you can pretty much count them out on winning any championships. That's not basically Collision doomed championships. So Jamie Hayter doesn't even have the confidence to win. So this is ridiculous. Reflecting energy. I just reflect energy. What are you talking about, reflecting energy? Stop this. Stupid. Oh my God. And she looks like Daphne from Scooby-Doo. That was true. It sticks. You can't just, wave your head and whatever and that thing goes away. No, that one stuck because it's pretty true. Willow Nightingale wants to fight the Death Rider. She's so goddamn cute. She had a little fist. She had a little fist balled up. And then Kris Statlander showed up. I didn't know what her problem was. Apparently, they're still not friends from their feud last year. Okay. And then they end up having a match tomorrow night. They said they're going to have a match on Collision. Okay. For no reason. Just no money's on the line. No, hey, we still got to work this thing out. Nothing like that. Willow just doesn't want to be friends with Kris Statlander, but wants to have a, friendly match. Because whatever. There was a stat that popped up on the internet that said Willow has only had one singles match in AEW this whole year. And this is, again, people do not grow in AEW. Because Tony Khan, he's not really good at recruiting. He's good at signing talent if somebody has somebody to vouch for them. If somebody's in the office or whatever and they can vouch for you, Tony Khan will give you a chance. But once you're slotted in a spot, you're there forever, for the most part. The idea that people can move up and down the card and, go from being a main eventer to a mid-carder and all that kind of stuff, no. Like, if you're introduced into AEW as a main event guy, nobody has ever been introduced as a main event guy and gone down. I think except Adam Cole. I think he might have been the only one that was introduced as a top-tier guy and then fell down to the ground. Most people stayed exactly where they were introduced. And that was that. Maybe they won more matches than usual. Maybe they lost more matches than usual. But most people were stuck right where they got slotted in when they first came in. And Willow is no different. She can't wrestle her way out of this position. There's no fan reaction that's going to happen where they're going to magically start pushing Willow. Unless people start complaining. Then it might happen. But it was the same thing with Kris Statlander. You know, there's nothing you can do to move her out of this position. And it's people were talking about this when it came to like Queen Aminata, right? They were like, oh man, it would be nice if she could move up. Like, that would require Tony Khan to actually adjust people's booking. This is why Athena's been stuck in ROH. Oh, she's the ROH Women's Champion for 9,000 days. It's like, so what? She's the world champion in the dark. Who cares at this point? As soon as you saw her on TV, she lost, and then she went right back in the fucking closet. So that's that. Now, Kevin Knight. He wrestled Kazuchika Okada. He was attacked from behind by Roosh. And this is based off of the $100,000 match they had on Collision. Roosh told Kevin Knight that he's going to take that $100,000 out of his ass because he cost him $100,000. So he beat his ass before the match started. Speedball Mike Bailey came out there to help, as if Roosh should be scared of Speedball Mike Bailey. Where you deport Speedball Mike Bailey? I'm pretty sure if we let Roosh do his own thing, he probably would have turned Mike Bailey into a pair of boots. He'd have skinned that son of a bitch. Taekwondo, no can do. Right? So, in any event, Kevin Knight got beat up. Okada just stood there and watched. But this was obviously sensible booking because they didn't want Kevin Knight to go out there and wrestle circles around Okada and make Okada look old. So they put Kevin Knight in a hole. And then he got to do some hope spots to get out of the hole. And then, of course, the match ended with a clothesline. So Okada wins. That is done and done. You didn't get to see Kevin Knight to be too spectacular. He did a little bit, but he didn't get to do a whole lot. He didn't get to embarrass Kazuchika Okada at all. And he still got a night off, old Kazu. I don't think his hair was even mussed by the time the match was over. Afterwards, Okada continued the beating on Kevin Knight, and he got chased off by Speedball Mike Bailey. And everybody was chanting for Omega, and were very disappointed that there was no Kenny Omega. Instead, they got more Speedball. The third appearance of this fucking guy. In the main event, Samoa Joe defeated Claudio in a match that I did not care to see and was quite boring, if we're being honest. Afterwards, the Death Riders came ringside and basically did nothing while the Ops basically mauled Claudio. They hit him with chairs and crushed his stomach on a chair. And then we went off the air with Joe and Moxley staring at each other. This show, again, not good. Boring show. Nothing happened. They're basically building up everything for next week. These tournaments, they always take over AEW's programming, and for some odd reason, they can never get past it. These tournaments are detrimental to AEW's product because it's not like they come out of the tournaments hot. They typically don't. But these tournaments have absolutely destroyed their storylines, and they're not properly building anything else. This Samoa Joe Moxley thing is a stopgap. It really doesn't mean anything, and nobody believes Samoa Joe is going to win the title. All of the mid-card belts are encased in amber, like Okada, Omega, Cole. These guys don't defend these belts. They don't show up to talk about these belts. Nobody else talks about these belts. These belts might as well be invisible. They might as well not even exist, including the trios belts. But the tag team titles are at least visible, but there is no tag team feud. They brought out a tag team to feud with them, and then MJF beat them up. The other tag team is also midgets who are in the crowd, and it's just a disaster. So if you're going to take all the titles off the table, at least the personal feuds should be good. And then the personal feuds aren't even good because it's full of tournament shit. And then it's Death Riders. None of that stuff's any good. This show sucks.
No one does it better.